Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
My gosh, I love the color of your room.
Thank you. I don't know officially what it's called. My mom joined.
Hi.
We have Jonathan. Hi, Jonathan. Hi, this is my friend Justin. What's up,
Okay.
Justin?
I'm just gonna add our quick disclaimer.
Okay.
Uh,
Thank you, Justin. Hope you're doing well. It's been a long time. Yeah, we have a disclaimer for this episode just because it is we don't really know what the truth is, I guess, about Bohemian Grove. So we just want to have a little disclaimer about the conspiracy and what people think is going on. Does everyone have a beverage with them? Hi, Michelle. Let us know what you're drinking in the comments, even if it's just water or if you have a snack or anything.
yeah. So I have with me, I had to get a couple of drinks because I didn't know which thing I really wanted to go with. So I have a limerita going as my
Ooh,
alcoholic drink, and then I have a sparkling white grape to hopefully
ooh,
complement it. We'll see.
okay. I don't think I've had the limerita. I've only had mango and strawberry, but that sounds like nice and mild.
Definitely is. Definitely is. And I threw some raspberries in because, I love a good berry fruity flavor.
I have a fuzzy navel in my Frida Kahlo glass that I mentioned in a previous episode.
Yes, we always love that.
Hi, Ashante. Happy belated birthday. Yes, we love Frida in this house.
Yes. And guys, feel free to throw questions, comments, anything. We're going to try to read them as much as we can. Unfortunately, Instagram has it going so fast. Hi, Jen's mom. Is that Miss Patty or Miss Doreen?
It's both of them. I
Oh,
made Miss
awesome.
Patty an Instagram just for this.
Yay. We love it.
Yes, gotta support our family, right?
Yes.
How many people are familiar with Bohemian Grove before we get into this hot topic? I feel like Jonathan will be. We'll see if we're right. Michelle, okay. Okay, she said never mind. She was saying yes to something else then.
I'm not.
Do we want to get started, Del? Do we want to give it another minute?
I say let's get started. The replay is going to be posted on our Instagram and on our YouTube channel, so people will be able to catch the whole replay if need be.
Okay, sounds good.
So, guys, welcome to our first live stream where we're going to be really diving into the craziest conspiracies. Me and Jen, we love conspiracies. We're always talking about them, and it's definitely an aspect of our attention spans that definitely get dedicated to the craziest, wildest conspiracies. So, this one is going to be Bohemian Grove, which is a weird one because it really intersects a lot of things that people tend to love to talk about. It has politics, it has blackmail, it has international groups, and it has this really weird men-centric aspect in some of the activities um, that they like to partake in at Bohemian Grove. And I'm going to throw it to Jenny to give me some of those juicy, juicy details.
Sure. So the Bohemian Club has a retreat. It's about a 2 week long retreat every summer at Bohemian Grove, which is in Monte Rio, California, around the San Francisco area. And the Bohemian Club has been around for over 150 years. It started, I think, sometime around the Civil War, right after it. And it is a men's only club. Like Dell said, there have been honorary women that were part of it, but the last honorary woman died in 1928. So you can get an idea of how friendly they are with women. And this Bohemian Grove retreat started off for Bohemian writers at the time, actually, very creative people, to relax and just get away from nature. And I think the motto of the club, I wrote it down, has always been weaving spiders come not here. So that was really just to make sure no one was working. It was all play. We're all here to relax, get to know each other, not have any business. So that's what they say it is. So
Yeah.
that was back in the day. And now it's a little strange what they do. They seem to have really carried over a lot of these strange rituals and routines. But before we get into that, we can talk a little bit about who some of the people are that are going, because it's very exclusive. It's between like $15,000 and $25,000 just to be part of this club. So the elites, the 1%, they're there. We have the Bushes who have been there. I don't know. Okay, Del, you're here. You fizzled out for a
Yeah.
second. The Bushes have attended. Clint Eastwood has been there. William Randolph Hearst, Henry Kissinger. There's politicians. There's government officials. There's like arms dealers there. Musicians. One of the members of the Grateful Dead has been there. So it's kind of like a mishmash. And something important to note is that a lot of the people there are white men and they usually lean right. I think all of the Republican presidents since the 1960s have attended. So, all of these people getting together, do we really think it's just for everyone to chill out and relax and to not do any business? That's one of the things people get stuck on. And another thing, they say it's for team building as well, which I think is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a team building experience I've ever been on. So, when they say that the Grove is not for business, it's weird because one of the most consequential things that has happened in the last 100 years was the atomic bombs that were dropped during World War II. And the Bohemian Grove actually hosted one of the more important meetings that went into setting that up. So they hosted a meeting in September of 1942 as part of the formation of the Manhattan Project.
So yeah, one of the main members that created the Manhattan Project was in attendance. I think some people kind of question as to whether it was really like created there because it was only one known person, but I don't know. I feel like that doesn't really prove everything. You could definitely they could have been talking about it and
Right.
not
And
have had everyone recruited.
Right. And one of the biggest things is why it was dropped and when it was dropped and where it was dropped. So definitely, I don't put it out of the frame of mind of them just going and saying, hey, you guys are really smart. You figure it out, how you're going to do this. But we would really like this war to come to an end without us having to bomb Europe. So do you have another country that we can bomb instead? And, unfortunately for Japan, it was them.
So that's just one of the political things that has been rumored to happen or did happen at Bohemian Grove. Another thing is that Richard Nixon gave a speech, I think leading up to his presidency, and he said it was one of like the best speeches he's ever given, like what he's most proud of in his political career. But then Dell, he also had a pretty unique take on the event too after I guess he gave this speech.
Yeah, so when I was looking into this case, this honestly was probably one of the best parts because I was like, this is someone actually being honest about what they think about things. So, warning, explicit language. We're definitely inclusive, but I want to say his full remarks so you guys get the picture of what he was describing. So, during a recording that was on May 13th, 1971, he's quoted as saying, "The Bohemian Grove, which I attend from time to time, it is the most faggy goddamn thing you ever imagine." This is a member and a president, and this is what he's saying about this secret society, the secret meeting. So I can only imagine what other things he said in a much more private setting.
Yeah, we know Richard Nixon was not afraid to speak his mind, especially whether, he knew he was being recorded or not. That was one big scandal in America in the 70s. So he's just a wild card. And it's rumored that Nixon and Ronald Reagan also chatted at Bohemian Grove about who was going to run for president and when. And we know that they both became presidents pretty influential conservative presidents that really changed the course of the country, especially Richard and Ronald Reagan.
Right. He's still, held up as the conservative president, someone who, took no prisoners and definitely someone that the conservatives constantly bring up, are you a good Republican president? Well, how closely aligned are you to Reagan?
I know when I was in college a few years ago, a lot of men on my campus would wear Bush Reagan shirts. Thank God I have not seen any of those in like 5 years, but I just had to eye roll like every single time I saw them. All the finance bros and like the frat guys are always wearing. I also went to college in Pennsylvania, which can be, kind of conservative depending on the area you're in. But still, we're living how many years later and people are still upholding those men.
And it's so weird because, we talked about this before, but Alex Jones is someone who he's such a minefield in a lot of ways, but he actually broke into the Bohemian Grove and got some inside information. And one of the things that he said on his recent time on the Joe Rogan podcast was that Bohemian Grove was a place where you came and you kind of just did what you wanted. It was a place where you weren't tied to your worldly commitments. You weren't a husband, you weren't a father, you weren't this, you weren't that. You were just you. And he said that at first Democrats set it up, okay, and they had hookers and escorts and poetry. And then he said when the Republicans took over after Taft, that it became a place for massive amounts of gay sex that they could use to blackmail people. So, you have to take both when it comes to Alex Jones.
Can you explain, like, for anyone that doesn't really know who Alex Jones is, who he is, and what he does, and then we'll get into a little bit of like why he had to sneak in to get these details?
Absolutely. So Alex Jones is a conspiracy theorist, a political commentator who runs the site InfoWars. He's been blocked off of a lot of mainstream channels, but he has several, online sites where he goes and he really spreads conspiracies. Some conspiracies that he talks about turns out to be correct. He was one of the first people to talk about COVID-19. He talked about it way back in like December when it was first being reported out of China. But then he also infamously talked about Sandy Hook and called it a false flag attack. And his followers ended up attacking the parents of the children who passed away due to that horrible, horrific event. And his credibility really took a shot. So right now he's really known for peddling conspiracy theories. Right now his current one is that C-19 is a global thing to make people put chips in your brain so that they can control you like the Manchurian candidate. So that's who Alex Jones is.
Yeah, he's wild. He's gotten, I think, a lot more attention probably since Donald Trump was in office. I would say that's really when I started hearing about him, but I guess the whole like media landscape has kind of changed since then too. But like we said, Alex Jones had to sneak in, and that's because Bohemian Grove is highly guarded. There's tons of security around there. It's on private property, and security guards will call the police. And I'm assuming they're armed as well if you try to infiltrate somehow. And not only that, there is a no recording policy for the members at Bohemian Grove. So they're not allowed to film anything. They're not even allowed to have cell phones. And in fact, one worker of Bohemian Grove said that she had seen people's cell phones get smashed and broken right in front of the owner that was not following the rule.
Which, I mean, that's that goes without saying. It's a secret club. They're apparently doing some things that they for their own reasons don't want the public to know about. And they're also basically controlling what goes on in at least US politics. So I can definitely see why they're like, no, you cannot record, you cannot do anything where the activities that are going on within this club are going to go and be seen by other people that are not members. They're not, they're not one of us.
And I think that's this policy is why people really question what's actually going on there. Like, if it's this innocent retreat that's like a summer camp, then why can't you really tell us some more? Which I get. And I do understand, like, if nothing is really going on, like, they are some of the most powerful people in the world. Like, we would need security there. But it's all just kind of fishy. So one of the things that I think the most well-known and strange thing about Bohemian Grove that Alex Jones actually got on film, so we can at the very least thank him for that, is the opening ceremony of the event called the Cremation of Care. And if anyone saw our pictures of this on Instagram, the big giant owl statue and all these hooded people with fire, that's part of a ceremony that is going on in modern times. It looks like something straight out of like medieval times, or honestly like a KKK meeting, in my opinion. It's so scary to watch.
Yeah. And I mean, if you look at the people that were members of Bohemian Grove, honestly, it's not surprising that it reminds you of a KKK rally either. They weren't exactly the most progressive of individuals that were members of this club.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sure that's part of why the reputation is the way it is too. But the cremation of care ceremony starts with several members. I'm not sure exactly how many, but a large majority of members in hooded robes walking through the forest to this big, like 40-foot tall owl statue. And they're also holding a wooden coffin that has an effigy of a human body in it. It's like a wooden body. And they're saying that I think there's like a priest that says like a little speech, and then they cremate this body. So the cremation of care. And that's just essentially them letting go of their cares and their troubles while they are at this retreat, and it's to kick off everything. So we're all here to have some fun. We're just going to let our cares go. But some people wonder if the wooden body, the effigy, is actually a human body, and if it is a human sacrifice that's going on. Alex Jones, in his video, he says that he can hear someone screaming, and I've heard the video. I do think it sounds a little fake. Like, I think it sounds like a recording of someone screaming, in all honesty.
Yeah.
But that, I think, is the main thing that people are so freaked out and curious about with Bohemian Grove. This possible human sacrifice. Some say a child sacrifice, too, that's going on here. And it's the elites. It's the 1% of the United States doing this very odd ritual. And we said that this started back 150 years ago. So people were maybe more ritualistic then, especially in the United States, but you'd think that, I don't know, update your practices with time, man. I think the average person would be like, what the fuck, if they knew
Yeah.
about this going on. And I don't think there's anything wrong with questioning that. Like, what is the meaning of this really? What's the meaning of the owl? And some people, Alex Jones has said this, that the owl is a biblical god named Moloch, and it's like a god of child sacrifice. But the actual god is of a bull and not an owl. But then other people try to say it's another god. It's very strange. And this is to me where I think the conspiracy gets to be like too much. Like, we definitely need to be critically thinking and questioning things that people in power are doing. But you got to get your facts straight, really. And not every single thing is a conspiracy. I mean, I think that's weird as hell, and I want to know what they're doing, but I don't know. What do
Yeah.
you think, Del? Did you see the video?
I did. And yeah, I think it's it's one of the things with Alex Jones where he seems to always take this basic thing that we can all agree on, but then he spins it in a way where we're like, okay, now you fucking lost the thread, and I can't with you anymore. Like, what what are we gonna do? So I definitely think he added some sort of sound effect to make it worse. But I'm thinking, like, you have a group of people who don't allow recordings, who are the 1% of the 1% and very powerful political people. That's enough intrigue right there where I definitely want to know more. I definitely want, a Netflix special where several journalists went in and they got, a bunch of footage because that's what we need. Like, what are you guys doing there? I do not believe their motto whatsoever. Like,
Yeah, I don't either. So this ceremony happens the first night, and then there are speeches at this lakeside. It's a beautiful camp. It's like in the redwood forest, which is another issue we'll talk about. But there are speeches that are given lakeside, and in one speech, let me see if I have it in my notes. There was a speech made about how basically the elites need to be making decisions for the world, for like the ignorant masses, is essentially what they said. And this speech, allegedly, like everyone was standing up clapping. They were so moved by this statement about how elites need to have like even more power in the country and in the world. So that again, I think is a strike against them for us to be like, what the hell is going on? Like, give us some answers because we don't trust you.
right. And yeah, it's not like you do anything to build our trust anyway. So you're constantly doing things that are sneaky. You're constantly doing things that are harmful. So my interpretation is, okay, you have the secret retreat. You're saying speeches about how you want more power when you already have all the power in the world. Okay, exactly what else is going on? That's why I do believe that it's a place where people can let loose of their fantasies, the fantasies that they feel like they can't live up to or they can't really fulfill in their everyday life because they have power. So I don't think that it's just about a concentration of power.
I agree. And when they're not giving these speeches, the people are just getting like wasted 24/7. There's like so much alcohol flowing. I'm sure people are doing drugs all the time there. I'm sure they feel, safe in this very thick forest. No one's watching them. It's their peers. They can do whatever the hell they want. And I've heard there's journalists. I don't know if they've talked to people or they've been invited in, but apparently everyone is just drinking so much and they're peeing all over the place, and that's part of why they don't want women there. I think women are there allowed in until a certain time, and then they got to get to step in. You're not allowed there anymore.
Yeah, even like the female escorts have to leave before the sun goes down. And I remember reading one story that apparently a Vanity Fair person had snuck in and was trying to stay past the time that was allowed for them to be there. And it didn't end up well. The security guard apparently, allegedly, ended up, kicking their ass. So I
Yeah.
definitely don't think, and I mean, just the way it's described, I don't think that it's an environment that women would want to be at anyway. It doesn't, I don't really want to see a bunch of men publicly urinating on some redwoods. It's not my scene.
Yeah. And people kind of question if like this is like so weird to analyze like people peeing in public, but people have kind of speculated like is this to show that they have like men have some kind of power over nature? I don't know. I feel like with a lot of these people, like I wouldn't put it past them. I feel like they're just so full of themselves and they think they're better than absolutely everyone. I mean, that's speculation, but who knows? But another reason why women probably wouldn't want to be there is because of these plays that they do. I don't know if they're held at night or during the day or whatnot, but they do different plays and they're high jinks and low jinks. So the high jinks are more like highbrow, serious plays that they put on. And then there's low jinks too, which is basically just like if a 13-year-old boy like wrote a comedy, it's allegedly just like all like penis jokes. And to that I have to say, like, and they also are not complimentary of women in these plays as well. So to that I just have to say, these are people in power, and then this is how they act. I mean, I understand letting loose, but if you're gonna be that immature, I feel like you should not be in power. You don't deserve to have this
Right.
position. I feel like one of the big things with me and Bohemian Grove is that like rich people are weird and scary, men are weird and scary, like they need to have some power taken away. I know people love the thing like rich people have no taste, like rich people like ugly things, and I feel like this really just goes along with it. Like rich people have like terrible culture.
Yes, and it's so weird because they have so much money. Like, you could just imagine what if you or I, just a normal person, had the type of money and resources that they have. You would be doing something so sophisticated, and you would be traveling, you would be finding out, how to really take care of the people in your circle. And so the fact that the most powerful people, leaders of the free world, are going and listening to people say penis jokes, it's like, what? Why? Like, you don't have anything better to do. You don't have a law to review. You don't have, civil rights leaders to meet with, even though these presidents probably wouldn't. Like, you don't have anything better to do with your time and your money and your resources. Like, okay, give that
Yeah.
money to me. I can show you what to do with a couple $1 million.
And it's 2 weeks of this too. Like, can you imagine like I know George Bush was like a frat guy, but can you imagine like George Bush and like Ronald Reagan like running around like in a play together? Like that's just so bizarre to even think of, in my opinion.
Right. And it's one of those things where it's like, one, that would probably get old after the first day. And two, you do this every year. This is not like a once a year thing and then it's whatever. No, you know what you're getting into and you constantly come back for it. So there's definitely some weird element where I can definitely see them doing this as a way to say, life is too stressful. I just need some dick jokes in my life. And, this is the one place where I can get it because for the other, 50 some odd weeks of the year, I'm supposed to be this very serious individual with these very serious opinions and doing serious things. And,
Yeah.
it just need
I
2 weeks.
Yeah, but I will say, like, I'm sure, I know that, like, you would think, like, businessmen and prominent people, like, their schedules are so full, but, like, they do take their own vacation times, and, like, I feel like it can't be that hard to be like, oh, like, Ronnie Reagan, like, we should go on a vacation together and just, like, chill out. Like, I don't know. It sounds fishy to me that they're spending this much time together. They're doing this weird, they're doing plays, they're talking crap on women, they're just getting drunk all day. And Del, you mentioned Alex Jones saying it's just like a big gay orgy. I'm sure that they are having sex with each other. And I know
Yeah.
I don't know if it's alleged or what, but they're bringing in sex workers too. I mean, I'm sure I don't want to say like, oh, these men have like needs to fulfill, but I'm sure that would be like their argument for that. Like, we gotta, that's how you blow off steam, right?
Yeah, and it's a boys club, so I mean, we can't have like straight stuff in there. We need those male escorts. And listen, do you? Like, I have no issue with it. But one is the fact that they have this secret retreat where they allegedly do these behaviors, and then they leave that retreat and do everything to attack those same people. And it's like, wait, you were just at your retreat. Just because you're supposedly only it for 2 weeks and other people are, their true self, doesn't mean that you get to sit there and regulate their lives. So it's just this weird thing. And I mean, Alex Jones, he said something really funny about it because he was like, I was really attractive back then, and yeah, a bunch of those guys were just hitting on me. And I'm like, okay. Okay, Alex Jones, I guess you got that one. They were just hitting on you. They just loved you. And you just said, no, no, no. I believe you, Alex Jones.
When we mention the sex workers coming in, there are rumors, and this might be triggering for some people, but there are rumors of child sex workers, child sex slaves being brought in. And one of those, for anyone that has listened to our Johnny Gosh episode, he was a boy that went missing in the early 80s, and he was most likely sold into human trafficking. And someone that's a big part of that case is Paul Benassi, and he was also a victim of human sex trafficking as a child. And he alleges that he was part of Johnny Gosh's kidnapping. He also alleges that he was flown into Bohemian Grove as I don't know what the right word is, but like a child sex slave for the people there to be entertained with. So it's just a lot to think about, and it just adds to the layers upon layers. And like Dell said, this is kind of like everything we talk about, the 1%, human trafficking secrets, drug secrets, like bad behavior, rituals, like possible like satanic worship too. People say that too all the time, that they're all Satanists.
Yeah, which I mean, listen, rock it. You are who you are. But I think it's so weird because, one of the things that Bohemian Grove is constantly compared to now is Jeffrey Epstein's island, this faraway place where, you know, horrible things happen. Less so with Bohemian Grove. Aside from the child sex slave, it seems to be consensual adults doing consensual adult things. But just a sense of it having to be very secret. You having control over someone and you being able to levy this information for later use. So I am interested to know whether any anything's happened because of the information that someone was able to blackmail someone with because of activities that happened at Bohemian Grove. I'll be interested in, hearing those stories.
Yeah. Do we know if Jeffrey Epstein like was ever at Bohemian Grove?
So there's no record, but I mean, it wouldn't be out of the question for him to have sent people and arranged that, but there's no record of him actually going.
Yeah, and there aren't really like real records of anyone in particular being there. It's all kind of, there are some guest lists, but it's kind of like rumors as to who was there. But there are photos of Nixon and Reagan and Bush and a few other politicians there. A lot of people from the Bush administration, like Colin Powell, um, Dick Cheney. There's like a picture of a young Dick Cheney there that I saw earlier. Just some weirdness going on. I wanted to mention too that a lot of the locals each year that this retreat is held, they go and protest because they think something is up. And I heard one video where someone was saying like we're not necessarily protesting like what's going on in there. We're protesting like what's going on outside. And they were just saying like the 1% like has too much power and they're just controlling the world essentially.
Right. And I think that's a really important distinction to make that, listen, you want to go in and have a private club where you do private adult things. We don't care. The problem is the fact that we know that you're doing some nefarious things. We know that you're planning some nefarious things. So we think that you need to be open and honest with what's going on in that club. And you're not allowing any type of journalists or not even answering basic questions like, hey, can we see a membership list? Like, hey, can we get a copy of the type of speeches that were, being spoken at that event. The fact that that information is not available, it leads to people talking in a more nefarious way about your private retreat. It doesn't, secrecy never leads to people actually thinking that something positive is going on.
Yeah, they're not doing themselves any favors. And I think that at this point, we, I think if you showed this to the average person, they would say like something fishy is probably going on here. I don't think with all of the stuff we just said, I don't think anyone can really like trust that they're just like some boys having fun. Like it's just one big frat party. Like it is to an extent, but again, like use that critical thinking skill. I would assume that at the very least they're talking about business. Maybe they're not worshiping Satan or sacrificing people, but at the very least they're talking about some very important world topics.
Right. It reminds me of like the billionaire conference that happens. The name is escaping me right now. But
Bilderberg, I think.
yeah,
Build it always the name makes me think of like Legos because it has build in it. It just sounds like a big Lego competition in my mind, but I think it's something like that.
yeah, and so it's this big forum for you guys that don't know where the most powerful people come together, and this is their quote unquote public conversation about what's gonna happen. The problem is they are the most powerful people. They publicly talk about what's gonna happen, but then it never happens. So that leads me to think like, maybe this is just the show. This is just them trying to say, well, we're not having secret conversations. We're telling you publicly what we think, of this thing and what we're going to do. Um, and the Bohemian Grove is there like, okay, guys, we did the public thing for the peasants. Now let's actually talk about how we're going to, retain all of our power.
Yeah, that kind of stuff just really scares me, but I would love to be a fly on the wall and just like know what's going on in either of those. I would be shocked, honestly, if it was all innocent and like they were like doing great things for the world at this point. But that I feel like is just kind of like my nature anymore, unfortunately. I did want to mention too, I don't know if it was in 2012, but in like the last decade or so, workers for the Bohemian Club, which is headquartered in San Francisco, it is like the men's club there that I guess they can go to while Bohemian Grove isn't going on, so the rest of the year. Workers there protested over not being paid a fair wage. And I think that's really interesting when we're talking about all of these wealthy people going in. You have to spend like $25,000 just to get in to be a member. And then everyone working there isn't getting paid anything. I think they were getting paid like $15 an hour, which is very good compared to like many places in the United States. But imagine everything they know that's going on in there, and you're only getting $15 an hour. That's not enough for me to keep anybody's secret, honestly. I don't know about anyone else.
No, not at all. And remember, this is $15 an hour in San Francisco. This is
Yeah,
not
one of like the most
$15 an
expensive.
hour,
Yeah.
in Nebraska. Love you, Nebraska, but $15 an hour goes a lot, a lot more in Nebraska. So yeah, come on, you need to pay me like a flat rate, 100,000, 250,000. I keep all your secrets for you. I will be your diary for that amount of money.
And
Just
I think one of like the representatives for the Bohemian Club was saying that they don't really have enough finances to do that. Who do you think you're fooling by saying that?
not me. I'm gonna tell you that
No,
much.
not us either. I'm sure not any of you guys.
Like, and the weirdest thing about this is that it's an open secret. So, House of Cards, which, I mean, with Kevin Spacey and his, he intersects with a lot of craziness that we've found out in recent years. They actually did something based off of Bohemian Grove, called the Ellison Fields in season 5, where they had this place where all of the rich and powerful. And I think that show actually did a great job of illustrating exactly how it looks, where you have all these mini deals going on, of course, year long. But then Bohemian Grove is really a place where though all those mini secret meetings that people are having, they come together so they can check their notes and exchange exactly like, oh, that overtaking of that government, that was you guys? Oh, I didn't know that. We overtook this other government 2 weeks before that. Nice, thank you. Glad that we're on the same page of, spreading democracy around the world.
Yeah, going off that, Dell, someone got a program from 2008, and in the program there was a speech on the upside to the war in Afghanistan. So that's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, I would love to hear that speech. Tell me the upside. And if you can go through that whole speech without saying oil or democracy, oh, I would be on your side. But I'm fairly certain that you probably can. I'm pretty sure that these are the type of people that look at it as we're the best thing since sliced bread, and we're going to use that to really spread, our form of democracy around the world. And Bohemian Grove allows them a very private place to do that.
Yeah, even if you look, there's a video on YouTube of someone flying over with a drone, and you really cannot see anything. You can see some trails, but it's all trees just tucked in together. So you could really get away with who knows what in there.
Right. And it said that the redwoods are about 200 feet in height. So
Mhm.
to me, this location was picked for a very specific reason. This wasn't just like, Oh, wow, realtor. Thank you for pointing this place out. This is really nice. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that this place exists. This was a we really want a place where we can be secretive. We really want a place where our activities have the lowest possibility of being publicized.
Yeah, the club has gotten into some trouble with the redwoods because of some illegal logging that has happened. They don't have a logging license, I guess, anymore. So who knows if that's really happening? But that's another reason why locals were protesting because they were destroying the land essentially. And this camp is like 2,700 acres. So it's huge.
What do you think is the most nefarious thing that is happening or has happened at Bohemian Grove?
I mean, I guess the atomic bomb thing, really, like that's, I think, like the most tangible thing I've heard, because everything else is more like speculation. Like, if I woke up tomorrow and the headline news was like human sacrifices at Bohemian Grove, like I would believe it. But then also, like, if the headline was like sacrifices like proven to not be at Bohemian Grove, like I would believe that too. Like, I would kind of believe anything at this point. But I mean, just knowing how traumatic the atomic bomb was, I guess that.
Definitely. I agree with you. Also, just to add on to that, them deciding who's going to be president, to me, that is
Hmm.
probably one of the most nefarious things because that is them seemingly not trying to put the best person forward, but having this really weird agreement over who's going to be leading the party. And to me, that just, in a supposed democratic process, that doesn't seem very fair and that doesn't seem to be what's best for the country. It seems to be, well, it's your turn and now it's my turn and we're going to have this turn. And I feel like we still have that process now on both sides where we're constantly hearing stories about, well, yeah, I'm going to do the, side slide so that this person can run. Where it's like, wait, are you trying to help the country or are you trying to help yourself and consolidate more power, underneath you? So that to me is like super nefarious Bohemian Grove stuff where it's like, I don't like people, taking turns with democracy. So, it's wrong.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And I would agree, like, that's definitely, of the things we know, that is, it's terrible. And to know, like you said, I'm sure it does happen on both sides. We don't really have, the people don't have as much power. I mean, we do and we don't. But like I saw a protester talking about Bohemian Grove, and she said like throughout our lives, like we learn about civics and we learn like our vote is so powerful. But then when the candidates are really getting chosen for us, like it limits our power. And I think that is like with conspiracy theories, like that is kind of the root of it. Like our power as a person is very limited.
I definitely agree with that. And it really is based off your location too. So someone who's in California, we're located in New Jersey, Pennsylvania. Our power is so diluted in a way where it's much easier to control. So at this point, who's ever the Republican or Democrat nominee is already chosen before we even get to the ballot box. Like really we have zero effect on who is or is not getting nominated. And it's been that way for quite a while. So I think that places like Bohemian Grove, it just represents what we already see with our own eyes.
Yeah. I was listening to a podcast about Bohemian Grove kind of as like preparation for this because I actually had heard about Bohemian Grove like on a show on the History Channel probably when I was in high school, and I hadn't really heard anything about it since then until I listened to the podcast like a year or so ago. And they had mentioned like I wish we could storm Bohemian Grove, like how people wanted to storm um, Area 51, and I wish we could do that. I feel like we could take down Bohemian Grove easier. And yes, Jonathan, definitely.
Yes, oh, absolutely. I mean, think about it. The reason why Bohemian Grove is able to do what it does is because that's where the power is. I think that it'd be very simple to say, one person, one vote. And, you know, a lot of the BS with voting would also be eliminated too, because you would have people trying to gather up as many votes as they can right now. And they say, well, the coastal elite, as they would call people, would be ruling the election. Like, how many people are in Texas? How many people are in Florida? Like, it's not just California and New York that's going to be able to rule over a country of, 330 people with about, what is it, about 140, 150 million people that vote. Like, that's just, it's not math. And people that love the Electoral College typically probably don't like math. So,
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions about Bohemian Grove? Any conspiracy theories they just want to mention? See what everyone's thoughts are? I think we're probably going to be wrapping up soon. Do you have any other conspiracy theories you like, Del, or like any true crime cases like you're excited for us to cover soon?
so definitely, I'm excited to talk about like celebrity death conspiracies, because that one is always so interesting. We're going to be doing a two-parter, coming coming soon in 2021, on the Tupac and Biggie Smalls case. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. How about you?
A conspiracy theory I really like that I don't think a lot of people know about is the missing 411. Um, and this is about the number of people that go missing in national parks every year. Um, and the National Park Service does not keep like any record of this, even though they definitely could be doing it. And there's so many questions as to like what's going on. And it gets like really far-fetched, like Bigfoot, aliens, like people are falling into other dimensions. There's like cave people coming out and grabbing everyone. But something is up, like whatever it might be, like something's up. A lot of people go missing in clusters too. Dell and I are on the East Coast. There's not a ton of these clusters on the East Coast. It's more in like Colorado and Utah, Oregon, California, places like that. But it's really fascinating. There's a documentary, I think it's on Hulu and YouTube right now. I definitely recommend everyone to check it out. Do
Definitely.
you believe
So
in Bigfoot? I do.
I do. Absolutely. Bigfoot and aliens. I just think
Yeah.
it's really hubris of us to assume that we're the only people in this wide universe. I don't know. But I think that aliens probably look at us and be like, nah, not yet. You guys need to evolve a bit more before we show our faces. But
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
it's definitely one of my favorite conspiracies. And as I always say, conspiracies, I usually put them in two categories. You have the very interesting ones that, thinking about it, it doesn't really hurt anyone to, presume that this is something that is happening. And then you also have the just like, please don't believe this conspiracy, like the vaccine one and the QAnon ones. Um, Kennedy Brower and Kevin Brooks, who be falsely convicted using bad science with corrupt officials helping it up. Isn't, you know what? People using bad science to falsely convict people could have been the name of our podcast, honestly.
Yeah, it's really shocking how often it does happen too. Whether I was just listening to something about Scott Peterson and, whether you believe he's guilty or not. Um, I don't really think he had a fair trial. And actually, the prosecution used a hydrologist to help with their story. And it turned out later that that person really had like no qualifications and didn't know what they were talking about. So just like the fact that this stuff happens so often, like how does this happen? We'll have to look into those, Jonathan. We're always up for a wrongful conviction. I am
Yeah.
at least. I'm like a big supporter of the Innocence Project.
Yeah, definitely. We have at least one more case this season, that's going to run through December, where we're going to be looking at the Norfolk Four. So definitely, keep your eyes peeled for that episode. And of course, we have our Julius Jones case, and we have the Buffet family murders that was just published on Wednesday. So I hope you guys are definitely checking out all of our episodes across YouTube and across all of the podcast platforms. We thank you guys so much for your support. It really means the world to us that we're able to really explore these interests of ours in a very creative and new way, especially as a good way to really distract ourselves from the hellscape that 2020 has really become. So we're going to sign off for now, but as always, stay safe. This is Dell signing off. This is
This is Jenny. You can say it, Del, if you want. I know you just did it on
yeah,
the
listen,
list.
we're so used to just blending our names together. I love it. So, again, thank you guys so much for your support. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and we will see you guys next Saturday with another one of these. So, definitely look to our social medias for more information on when we're going to be coming back to you live. Good night.
Bye, everyone.